Hello and welcome to the Cynic Weekly. It's Thursday, it's the 5th of February 2026. I'm your host, Christopher Gallagher, coming to you from a very windy Cambuslang, but it's not windy in our hearts. Is that a thing? I'll introduce the panel. Off to a bad start. Don't know what the hell that was. But we've got a fantastic panel for you as we do each and every week. Delighted to say I'm joined by our usual host, Barry Gallagher. Hello, Barry. How are you, sir?
Very well, thanks. I'm not sure about the wind thing either, but we'll go with it. An eventful week. I seem to think we say that every week these days because there's so much going on and off the pitch. Unfortunately, not on the pitch last night, but yeah, plenty to get our teeth into, and I'm delighted to be here. Lovely
stuff, Barry. We're also joined by our very good friend down in Liverpool. It's Scott Fleming. Hello, Scott. How are you, sir?
Aye, all right. Slightly disappointed that we don't have an underwhelming 1-0 win over Aberdeen last night to talk about, but I'm sure we'll find other things to fill the time.
Actually, it was going to be an underwhelming 3-0 victory, so wind your neck in, pal. All right.
Sorry, mate.
There's plenty to talk about. We're going to talk about, there's a few bits around that postponed Aberdeen game we can talk about. We're going to talk about, obviously, there's the upcoming boycott of the Dundee game being done by the Celtic Collective. We can certainly talk about that as well. Transfer window, we'll cover that because obviously it closed earlier this week and we brought some players in and there is some news, and then we'll hopefully get along to chat about the Dundee game as well from an actual footballing perspective. A couple of questions in there too. Opening question is, and we'll start with yourself, Barry, does the business done by the club in the transfer window convince you we have the tools to win the league?
Thinking about this when I saw the rundown earlier, I suppose if you look at it, taking away all the sort of the obvious issues that we have, so we've added 5 players, we didn't lose any starters, so in that respect I would say that we are, we're stronger, and the initial signs of Arajo and Chivinchara looked promising. I thought they did really well again at the weekend. And it's just a case of wait and see. I think obviously the issues are there for all to see in terms of the fact that we didn't spend a penny, but you've just got to hope that these players can do it. I'm still not wholly confident that we will win the league, but I suppose a bit of a cop-out for the question is that I think we are in a better place than we were this time last week. How's that? Is that okay?
I'll do. Happy with that.
That's the positivity I can give you. But I think to put a wee bit more of a slant on it, I think, we obviously could have done better, much better. And as the reasons that as we'll go on to talk about, that's the reason why there is things like a boycott coming at the weekend because of how poor we're run as a club. But in terms of bodies, we've got more bodies in. Some of them do have some sort of pedigree. I saw a stat earlier today that 4 out of the 5 have experience of winning a title in another country, so it's quite a nice stat, because we often say, one of the things I think I said on one of the weeklies this season is that this team, even though that they've won a lot of trophies, but a lot of the new players don't feel like winners. Yeah. And they don't really have a history of winning, whereas these guys do. So it might be clutching at straws, but I'm trying to be positive because I feel like we've been negative for months. And there'll be plenty more time for negativity later on in the pod, don't you worry about that.
Oh, there's plenty of time, don't you bloody worry about that. Scott, what about yourself? And we'll go through the players that we've brought in. Obviously, we did a debrief podcast as part of the Cynic.co, in which we looked at the players and from a more technical point of view. So if you've not subscribed to the Cynic.co, you can go to the website, Cynic.co, sign up for us. It's a monthly fee and you get around about 36 podcasts per month. You can also check us out on Patreon as well. Podcast almost daily, but at least 7 to 8 a week. Scott, the players, as I say, we'll talk through the ones we've brought in. Does it move the dial for you in terms of our chances of winning the league?
Yeah, firstly, just to say that was a really good pod to you and Will, and that probably is one of the things that's helped me feel a little bit more optimistic about it as the week has gone on.
Lovely.
does it move the dial for me? I would say yes, but not by as large a margin as I would have liked. I think it helps on a very basic level just to have more numbers. It allows us to rotate more than we've been able to up to this point, and it probably allows us to be a little bit more front-footed with our substitutes as well. There's been so many games this season where we just wait until 70, 80 minutes, not because we don't need a change, but just because we don't have any faith in the options on the bench. So I think it helps in that regard. It's just hard not to be concerned about the idea that you've got 5 guys there who all need game time and all need a real boost in their confidence, and they are, they're sort of their self-belief, really. And I think it's a lot. I'd argue it's a little bit unfair to ask an interim management team to do that with 5 players in one window. 2 or 3 maybe okay, but to do it with so many, it is a big ask. And I do just think if there'd been even one permanent signing who is more of a young up-and-coming player, then that could have really done more to lift the atmosphere of the place and change the mood of the squad. Because we've spoken about it before in the past, that the idea that competition is the best thing to sort of keep a player's tools sharp, and there's too many players in our team who are just cruising at the moment. And I think of Kalmak, Hatate, Dyson in particular, none of them have looked themselves this season, and none of them, none of their places in the team are going to be threatened by these moves. Basically, the 2 strikers coming in aren't really replacing anyone in a way. It just means we can move Dyson out of that position. Johnny Kenny's obviously away out on loan. And Vuka will provide a bit of competition to Yang, but Yang's already playing well. And the right back has obviously came in, and it's allowed them to put Ralston and Colby Donovan to one side. So there's not enough of what I would have liked to see in terms of that real genuine competition running throughout the whole team. But purely in terms of numbers, as I say, I think it is a boost to have as many as 5 through the door.
Yeah, I think, Barry, I want to bring you straight back in because you had your hand up.
I think that's a really good point that Scott makes about these players are needing this move to boost their confidence, when ideally we need players to come in and boost our confidence and boost the rest of the squad's confidence. So it feels like a mismatch in terms of that, because these guys, a lot of them haven't played for a while, or if they have played, they haven't been performing well, whereas we need people who could raise the levels, that sort of aggregate level of the squad that we often say on here. And the other thing is that when you kind of pack a squad full of loanees, alongside some players who maybe are a wee bit despondent that their moves haven't happened, that's even including Engels. I mean, guys like Maeda and potentially Hatate, who probably thought they would have moved on by now. It's not really the basis or the foundations that you want for a dogfight to get you over the line in a title. So it's not ideal, but it's basically what we've got, and we need to sort of foster something, foster a spirit to try and do that. And as Scott says as well, the fact that you're asking an interim management team to do this, it's basically like the epitome of the short-term nature of Celtic. But having said all that, I feel like, going back to the point that I made earlier, the fact that we do have more bodies now and they're here. The other thing I wanted to say as well, sorry, I'm a wee bit over the place just thinking about this, but yes, on paper they can be underwhelming, but some of the most exciting signings that we've made have been disastrous, and it's the ones that you maybe didn't have expectations to that end up becoming cult heroes or even better, kind of mainstays of the team. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. I don't think there's one sort of silver bullet answer to the question, but we've got to kind of go with it now, and you would like to think that if the management team are happy or happy enough with what they've done, then we can try and sort of foster something into some sort of semblance of a winning team.
It's funny because people always, whenever you think of loan players, people always go Robbie Keane or Craig Bellamy, and we didn't win the league when we brought them in. I know the argument is that the quality of the player that they were, we brought them when they were prime time Premier League players. I know that Craig Bellamy, I know that Bellamy fell out with Souness, and so it was a situational there, and that Robbie Keane wasn't getting a game at Liverpool and stuff. But it was prime time, essentially, and that's, I think people are more concerned about the loans that we're bringing in are people who are not getting games or they're not playing particularly well, because you're not bringing guys in who are on form, Scott. Now, that's not to say that these guys can't reset, but you're not bringing in guys who are rattling goals in or, really perform well. And maybe that is to do with, them playing in different positions, but maybe that's what has garnered the sort of, not negativity, but apathy among the support.
Yeah, and the thing is, even putting aside our club's very obvious failings when it comes to recruitment in recent seasons, there will sometimes just be an element of bad luck with these things.
Yeah.
It sounds like certainly the main story that seems to have came out about Gajemis, the Frosinone guy. How true this is, I don't know, but the main story that's came out about it seems to be that despite all the chat about us haggling with a fee, that it was agreed and he just said no. And when that kind of thing happens, I suppose there's not a great deal you can do. So I do look at them, and I think Adamu in particular, I think if we can get the Salzburg version of him, I would be more than happy with that. The interesting part of it is if he comes in and does really well, what's your plan with Chvan Chara at that point? Because I really can't imagine us playing two up front at any time soon.
Yeah.
The Mvuka one, I think, is the hardest one to be positive about, really, because he's just a guy who is so far cut off from the point where he was a promising prospect now. It's quite far in the past, and even when he was good, the statistics aren't exactly blindingly good for Bodo Glimt. The young guy, the young centre-half, I don't know, I just can't help. You're crossing your fingers and hoping that it might be like the next Jason Denayer, but the fact that he's mainly played Premier League 2 football, we know that guys who play Premier League 2 football and come to Scotland usually end up signing for Livy or Ross County or something. Like it's Ben Woodburn and Jan Danda and guys like that. Is so I think we have, that's of all our problems with the transfer market the last few years, our refusal to face up to the full scale of the problem in central defence baffles me. The lack of, we don't sign enough players in central defence. They don't sign good enough players in central defence. They always seem to think they can just have 2 or 3 and then a few, maybe one loanee, and then it'll be fine. And yeah, it just totally baffles me. But yeah, it's down to the coaching staff to see what they can get out of them, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've had a question and Barry wants to get to it. I can see him, he's very excited. This is from Simon. He says, "Hi Gall, hope you're well. Hopefully a slightly more fun question. Given we could field a half a team of loan players, could the panel draft our best Celtic 11 of loan players? See which is best. Thanks and keep up the good work." Barry, have at it.
Right, I've been thinking about this all day. So
he's very excited. I can see it in his face.
We had a couple of good options, or 3 good options for goalkeepers. So Foster was there, Javier Sanchez Proto, but I've gone for Artur Boric because obviously he was on loan at first. Well, I just run through my 11 now. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I was struggling for a right back, so I've gone for Araujo.
What about Dundee?
For him.
I've got Dundee.
Oh well. There's a difference. My 2 centre halves are Carter Vickers and Denayer, and my left back I went for Alex Valley. So it was a toss up between him and Sloop. My midfield is a very unbalanced team after here, so I've gone for a midfield 3 of Jota, Iwata, and Roberts.
Okay, love
They'll
it.
get the live, and then my front 3 is Edouard, Bellamy, and Keane.
Beautiful. What about yourself, Scott? Do you have a team?
Yeah, I've scribbled it down. It's quite similar, to be fair, but I went for Doumbé at right back. Even though, from what I remember, he wasn't very good, but he did score a winner in the cup final. So,
that's it. Yeah.
I've gone for. I had Valley originally at left back. I've scribbled him out and put Sarachi just because he has sort of became a cult hero, even though he's played about 3 minutes. I've got 4 in the mid. I don't know why I've went with 4 in midfield because I can't find any good central midfielders that was signed on loan over the years.
Yeah, it's hard.
I've put Paulo Bernardo and I've put the dearly departed Landry Nguemo.
Oh my God, that's a shame. Oh, God love him.
and I put Jota Maeda on the wings. Like, I don't know why. Yeah, I definitely shouldn't have gone with a 4 because that means I've left Roberts out, which feels stupid. And up front, I've got Bellamy and Samaras. I feel bad leaving Keane out, but ultimately he did lose the league. He is a loser, unlike Georgios Samaras, who single-handedly won us the 2007-2008 Scottish Premier League title.
Beautiful stuff, Scott. Are you his agent? That was lovely. Barry, were you want final thoughts?
No, some good ones in there. Weirdly, I forgot about Sriracha, even though I had Araujo, so my recency bias is very recent because I can't remember the summer window. But no, good. I agree with Scott. The probably the hardest position that we haven't really had many successful loans is the central midfield position.
And nearly put Musonda in central midfield at one point.
Oft.
It's fucking ridiculous.
A great pass. That's it. Just that one pass to young Henderson. That's about it.
Yeah.
The goal was the goal against Zenit.
Did he not pass? No, he scored again. Did he score against Zenit?
No, he passed it to McGregor.
Yes,
right.
It,
yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Michael Gray, left back. He was
off. A reward for Seville, wasn't it? There's sure. Got to European final, have Michael Gray for 6
Michael
months.
Gray and Stephen Pearson. There you go, 750 quid, £1,000. Yeah, I mean, great ones. Miku, big fan of that guy. Big Lasad. Sometimes he made me Lasad. Yeah, there's not a lot of central midfielders. Patrick Roberts, great stuff. Great question. Lovely stuff. In terms of Adamu, we did a profile on him, as I say, on the debrief, which is available now if you sign up to the cynic.co. But I just kind of jotted down some of the notes that Will was giving us. So his key strengths: very quick, intelligent off-the-shoulder movement, strong historical goal output, pressing triggers well understood. He is best served with early balls into channels, thrives in verticals, fast attacks. The risk factor: role mismatch has distorted recent data. He's less effective with his back to goal. Upsides: consistently overperforms XG in his career. Strong fit for a direct tactical shift. So some good stuff from Adamu. Mvuka, very fast over short distances, comfortable in high pressing systems, attack space aggressively. His confidence has been impacted by recent seasons. Medical history has been noted as not ideal. Needs early momentum to settle. We obviously have a young Arthur as well, but he's not played many games, so we can't really make a judgment on him. Barry, I get a question for you.
Okay.
Do you like oxtail soup? Because you'll be eating plenty of it. That's not a question, is it? It is kind of a question. It's quite odd. I thought that sounded better in my mind. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has been linked with Celtic. Apparently, discussions between the club and his representatives have gone well. There was even talk that he could potentially be doing a medical today. Your thoughts on the Ox signing for Celtic potentially? Talk me through it.
Yeah, I'm quite positive about it. I know that obviously with the huge caveat that he hasn't played since May, but I was quite surprised that he was only 32. He's obviously got a great pedigree. I think he was really good at Arsenal and then probably even better at Liverpool. The fact that he's kind of been speaking to Joe Hart, I don't know why that comforted me. I don't know, it should have no bearing on it whatsoever, but it did. I'm clutching at straws here. But yeah, I think that if O'Neill seems to talk very positively of the chats that they've had, so I think O'Neill's a good judge of character. I think that he will be able to see if he is still hungry. I know that some of the criticism coming out today from sort of Besiktas supporters was that he'd maybe lost that hunger or desire, but who knows, maybe the sort of 5-6 months out of the game is maybe made him find that again. But I think it's something different. Like I really don't see there's much of a downside from this. Like if he comes in and we realise we've given him a 6 month, has there been much talk about the length of the deal? No,
there's not been any nothing talked from that perspective. I could see it going one of two ways. I could see that he maybe wants to use Celtic as a platform to get fit, so he might sign a 6 month contract, or he wants a 2-year deal. I think he'll be happy with a short term, or he'll want a longer term, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, aye. So if it's 6 months with an option for another year or whatever, then that would probably make sense. And it would, as you say, like, it suits Celtic and the player. But I just feel like that's the one thing that we missed out on in the window. Well, one of the many, but in terms of bodies in the area of the pitch as a midfield, and I think he could give us something. He could maybe be someone that can have that wee bit of magic and open the door for us against defences. And I hope that it does get done today ahead of the Europa League register deadline, because some people might say that's crazy, like registering him ahead of one of the other players that we've signed. But my understanding is we can only register 3, and it doesn't matter how many that you've taken out. It's 3 is the total number. So there's maybe a question for you guys. If we do sign him, would you register him, and who would the other 2 be that you do?
It's a very, very good question, Barry.
I don't know where his fitness is at, really, to be playing in. I mean, we might only have 2 more games in that tournament, and they're both before the end of the month. Like, he's been
training. I mean, his match fitness might not be ideal, but I think his fitness. I think you could probably, if you did sign him, right, and we've got the games coming up. There's a lot of games coming up before Stuttgart. I reckon if you get him in, you could play him. I'll give you. That's a good. We'll circle back round to that about the Europa League squad, Barry. But Scott, okay. I want to hear your thoughts on AOC. Is he worth it? Is it a too much of a risk? Is it a gamble? What's your thoughts?
I really don't like it, to be honest, and I feel a bit harsh saying it because he seems like a really nice guy, a cool guy. Like, it was a really good player in his day. I think, like Barry says, it is kind of nice just to hear that he's been talking to Joe Hart and stuff. And I think it's also kind of reassuring in a way how enthusiastic O'Neill is about it. That at least tells you that it's something that hasn't been foisted on him by the board, or at least you would hope not. But I think I really dislike it, less for the specifics of it and more just what it seems to say about us as a club at this moment. I mean, I suppose it doesn't tell us anything we didn't already know, but to me it just stinks of desperation and lack of ideas, lack of ambition, short-termism, and also just this thing which has been evident about us as a club for years and years now, which is that we are just so starstruck and bowled over by anything to do with the Premier League, even if it's the sort of faded glamour of someone that was good there 5-10 years ago or whenever it was. So I just look at him and I think there's a reason he's not at the club for so long. There's a reason he didn't do well at that club, Besiktas. You're asking, we've got so many big games coming up in quite a short space of time, and you're asking a guy who has played so little football and who had a terrible injury record at the best of times to come in and adapt to that. And look, I found myself thinking this and saying this over and over and over this week. I hope I'm wrong. I obviously hope I'm wrong. Lots of people have made the Aaron Moy analogy. If you come in and offer us that kind of input in terms of experience, creativity, goal involvements and all that, that'd be great. And like I said earlier as well, a concern of the business that we have done is that we haven't really addressed the midfield. There's still problems with the midfield. There's not enough competition in there. So that's something that he would do. Maybe even, although the obvious, the downside to it is that he can't offer you the versatility he once did. He used to be able to play basically any position on the park. He's now just a central midfielder, but he could maybe offer us something. But as I say, I still just can't help feeling really sceptical about it, just for the optics of it and what it seems to say about us as a club at this point.
I fall somewhere in between both of you. I think Barry's quite enthusiastic about it. Scott, you're quite negative on it. I fall somewhere in the middle. I think everything you said, Scott, is right. I think Celtic they want to have that English Premier League glamour. They don't necessarily want to pay for it, but they want to have that connection to England. They just do. They always have. Yeah. However, what I would say is I don't think this is that much of a high risk as maybe other people do. Just in terms of, see, if you get him in, right, and he wins you the league because he scores a couple of goals, or he just is an option off the bench, or he brings something to this team that just raises it up a 1%, I think that's a risk that I'm willing to take. I think that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I don't think you're not paying a fee for him. His wages will be hefty, but Celtic won't offer him hefty wages. They just don't offer hefty wages. They either give him a 6 month deal or an 18-month deal. I think unless he comes onto the pitch and instantly breaks down and he's out for 3 months, which, with the best will in the world, you can't predict whether that's going to happen or not. I don't see too many downsides to it. And the other reason I don't see a downside to it, in terms of this squad for this title push in these 4 months, the manager seems to really want him, which I think is important. He seems quite enthusiastic about the move, which I think is important. So from, if you narrow your focus onto targets right in front of you, this title run-in, I think AOC maybe gives you, see if it's only 3 or 4% extra chance, I'm taking it. But
I think I've got a little bit of concern that it could be like Iheanacho, in that he comes in, we've all got low expectations. He actually exceeds those expectations, but then gets injured, and then gets fit, and then gets injured again, and so on. Do you know what I mean?
Circle back on your point, Scott. I agree with everything you're saying about how badly this makes the club look in terms of short-termism, no planning. If Celtic were a well-run club, we wouldn't have to do this. But this comes back to everything we've talked about in the past. Celtic aren't a well-run club. We don't have a set of targets that we're working through to bring in this summer. We will open the transfer book up on the 1st of July. We're not working on targets right now. There's no one to work on targets. So I completely agree with you, Scott, in terms of the bigger picture. However, I agree with Barry in terms of the narrow strain of actually, if he can give you an extra, I'm putting up to 5 or 7% now. We're just going up percentage wise. This guy's 100% guaranteed by the end of the pod. But yeah, that's what I think in terms of the league, Europa League qualifying. Barry, who would your 3 be out of the new guys that have come in, and potentially the Ox?
I think it's both the early signings and the Ox. So I think it'd be Araujo, Chivinchara, and Oxlade-Chamberlain. And I know that's unfair on the other players that have been signed this week, but I think Chivinchara scoring that goal at the weekend and his impact at Tynecastle with the assist, I think it'd be really harsh on him not to. And Araujo, I think game by game he's impressing me more and more, to the point now that I'm actually a wee bit annoyed that we haven't got an option with him. And then just because of, I think we all mentioned there, the fact that I feel like our midfield has probably been one of the worst performing areas of the park this season, I would like to sort of roll the dice with Oxlade-Chamberlain, because if you say, even if he can give us a wee bit of magic, something that we don't have, then I would take that. It's just a pity that there is only three places, but then I suppose when you have to sign half a first 11 in January, then you reap what you sow.
Absolutely. What about yourself, Scott? Who would your 3 kind of players being brought in?
Yeah, I'd agree with Barry. I think it's an absolute no-brainer to just put Araujo and Chivinchara in there, and then it's just a case of the third one. I'd like to have a little bit more time to look at Adamu and see how good he is. But realistically, I would probably throw the centre back in there, because otherwise you're looking at being one injury away from like Dane Murray playing away to Stuttgart or something, aren't you? So. Yeah. Out of the players, Barry, that we've signed, who are you excited about most?
I'm excited about Adamu. I think that it was interesting listening to the sort of debriefing when the window closed as well. Like, maybe the fact that in an ideal world, if it's like one season that these guys have been away from their best form, you would take that. But the fact that it's maybe 2 or 3. But I think what he did at Salzburg was impressive. He scored against Bayern and Chelsea in the Champions League. And I think that he probably has the best profile out of the players signed on deadline day. And the point that Scott made, I totally agree with, but I wonder if there maybe could be a way to fit both him and Chivinchara in to the starting lineup at some point. I know that Chivinchara was kind of playing off the right at times, and I think that Adamu maybe could as well. So I know it's not ideal, but it's just nice to have striking options, and I'm a sucker for a striker. Always crying out for someone that can put the ball in the back of the net, so hopefully he's one of them.
Yeah, I imagine you're the same, Scott, in terms of the players Barry's mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think surprisingly, Salzburg have been kind of shite the last couple of seasons, but certainly 3 or 4 seasons ago when he was still in that team, they were the sort of team who were doing really well and just producing so many young players, so many good young players that have gone. Yeah, you look around Europe now and you see them everywhere. So for him to be one of that batch, I think is really promising and exciting, even though I don't think his goal scoring stats were spectacular. The other day, get about 17 and about 50, 60 appearances, or in about 80 appearances. I'd need to double check that. But yeah, I'm all on board for us trying to be as positive as possible about the new signings. But I did laugh to myself earlier this week. I don't know if you saw that guy clipped up Adamu's last 50 shots and Vuka's last 50 crosses. It's some of the most depressing viewing I've ever had in my life.
Aye, but you can make a...
But we would have been shite recently. We know that.
That's it. Aye, thanks for that save there, Scott. We had 3 bids for Arne Engels from Nottingham Forest on the last day of the window. Here's some comments from Martin O'Neill. Yeesh. We all talk about statements from football clubs, and half the time I don't believe it, but I do think it is a statement, because that was the bid. To turn down that at this stage in January is really, really big. The consequences of that are really big. I never asked how they were making it up, but let's say it was 20 with 5 million add-ons. That was attainable. You're talking about £25 million. You know, one bid was coming after another, and they joke about the 100 million, but if it kept going, the board was keeping me informed of it. Honestly, they never came to me and said, you know, what's your thoughts on it? I just assumed that they would know that my thoughts were, 1, it's difficult to turn down, and 2, the player would at least double or treble his wages that he can. I'm saying that he gets here, and they are in the same group competition as us. Arne seemed bright and breezy this morning, and I probably didn't really want to talk to him. He didn't kick up a fuss about it either, even though it came in late. I think that his agent was happy enough with the situation. He said that this is it. I think Arne is happy here. He wants to see what this season will bring at the end. Of course, it's tempting. It's really big money on here, but they didn't take their bait. So naturally, I'm really pleased, and we can relook at things in the summertime. It's almost just an indication that Engels is going to go in the summer. Barry, were you expecting a bid to be accepted when it got to that 20 million mark? Are you surprised it wasn't accepted? What would you have done? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I was surprised that it got to that sort of value, but probably echo the thoughts of most of the comments on the pod this weekend. The sort of wider support is that I would have had no issue selling Engels if we were that properly run football club, which we're not, and I feel that's a sort of well-trodden phrase. That probably would have been the quickest that we've flipped a player, 18 months and more than doubled your money. And I think that ideally what would have happened is that summer when you brought in Engels and Bernardo and him would have sort of usurped Hatate as a starter, so it would have been those two and McGregor or whatever, and then you would have hoped that Bernardo would have progressed, and then thought, right, Engels can go because we've got him, or we would have brought in his replacement in the summer. I totally agree. I don't think we could have done without him for this run in. I still, as Scott and I have said, I think we needed another one in there, so the fact that if we were to sell him, we'd have needed 2. And I suppose we won't really know until he's played a few games, but I think it's quite hard for a player to just put that out of your mind, particularly when things are so tense and there's such a bad feeling around the club. So you might start to see if he isn't as happy as O'Neill's saying, but it's a difficult one because the money is incredible, but we wouldn't have done anything with it anyway. So I feel for the player a wee bit, but we've got a title to try and throw ourselves back into. So I think it is the right decision. And my only worry is that if he doesn't sort of have a good end to the season, I don't think we would get anywhere near that money again, but you never know. So yeah, happy he's here, but just again disappointed with the overall picture that we weren't in a position to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, Scott, we barely have players. Arne Engels isn't in the most sparkling of form currently, but we don't have anyone who really could step up and kind of take his position. It was kind of, it just wasn't viable to work, but you're still surprised that we knocked it back?
Yeah, a little bit. I've always been a little bit of an Arne Engels truther, even if he does really frustrate me at times. I think he is too inconsistent. He does allow himself to get bullied out of big games far too often, with Tynecastle, I think, being a good example of that recently. I was so frustrated with him in that game. But I still think if you look at the overall pros and cons since we signed him, I looked it up the other day. He's got 30, for someone who's not exactly a number 10 or anything like that. I know he hits a lot of penalties and corners. People might accuse him of stat padding, but he's got 35 goals and assists in a season and a half at Celtic as a 22-year-old. So I've never been that surprised to see the calibre of club which he gets linked with, which tends to be big clubs. And I had no issue with us knocking back 14 million or 17 million. However, once you get to 20 with five and add-ons, as Barry says, like, absolutely, as if we are any kind of serious selling club with a proper player trading model, you take that and you don't really give it a second thought, because you should have the next one off the production line there, or another summer coming out else in the summer, and clearly we don't. So this is why, of all the problems at Celtic at the moment, the recruitment one is the biggest, because it's creating a bit of a logjam. Like, we should have been comfortable letting Dyson go in the summer. We've had half a season of really poor performances from since then, which happens over and over again at Celtic. When you look at guys like Christie, Edward Aja, when they all stayed on a bit too long, it's not as if we don't have enough recent historical precedents to know what happens in this situation. But if you're going to fail over and over again with incoming recruitment, then it's going to make you hesitant with these opportunities to offload people for big fees. So it's a stupid situation that we've got ourselves into. But ultimately, I couldn't disagree with the board's decision not to take that third bid, as much as it was inflated figures. I do think it's another weird little sign of how poorly the club's been run, that they didn't even speak to O'Neill. You don't even speak to your manager about something like that. No. I find that bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the Cynic have a 5-part series that's debuting on Sunday called Rebuilding Celtic Pathways to a Modern Football Club. One of our analysts has developed, our analyst Will has developed a 30-page football strategy blueprint, and we are basically developing 5 podcasts that is breaking down his strategy, from everything from recruitment to facilities to processes. Everything's in this absolutely fantastic document. We will be releasing the podcasts once a week for the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and then we'll be sending all of our subscribers the full document. It's about 40 pages. It's incredible work. You can sign up at thecynic.co or search for The Cynic on Patreon and get involved. Just looking at the postponed match yesterday, so Celtic versus Aberdeen at Pittodrie was postponed. Obviously, it came late in the day. I think it was 4:00 was the pitch inspection. Celtic released a statement this afternoon. It's extremely regrettable that last night's match against Aberdeen was postponed, particularly at such a late stage. While we understand the decision, clearly we sympathise with our supporters, many of whom had begun making their journey or had arrived in Aberdeen already. We have raised the matter with the SPFL to understand whether the SPFL pitch inspection protocol was followed correctly. In our view, there must be the ability to make earlier decisions on matches. We're very sorry for fans that have been inconvenienced in this way. Barry, an absolute nightmare for the travelling support. Obviously, football fans in Scotland are the last people to be told of anything that's happening. Processes need to be in the correct position. Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that Aberdeen had wanted one earlier and they couldn't get anyone up there to make the decision earlier, it's not ideal. Some of my friends were as far as Dundee when the decision was made. So, yeah, was really disappointing, because obviously after the boost that we got on Tuesday night with the result at St Mirren Park, and obviously the wanting to see the new signings, disappointed that it didn't happen, but
none more so for the supporters who were up there, and as you say, they're always the bottom of the list when it comes to who the authorities care about. So yeah, the fact that it's been rescheduled for when it has as well is not ideal with the run of fixtures that we have, and I always think it's good to get these games out the way and points on the board if you are lucky. But yeah, disappointing, and I suppose if you're looking at it positive, it gives us longer to prepare for the weekend, but that's scant consolation.
The game has been rescheduled to the 4th of March 2026. This is the run of fixtures, Scott. I want to hear your thoughts. Stuttgart away, then Rangers away, then Aberdeen away, then Motherwell at home. Motherwell obviously at home is, you would put in inverted commas, easier just because it's a home game, but Motherwell are pretty much one of the top teams in the country at the moment. Yeah. Aberdeen probably have a new manager by that point, and probably get them into some sort of shape. And then you've got the second leg of the Stuttgart tie and Rangers away at Ibrox. It's piling up with the pressure.
Yeah, and I mean, last night would have been the best possible time to get Aberdeen as well. We're so low on confidence, they're not doing well at all under the interim management of Peter Leaven. It would have been perfect, especially the chance to strike where the iron's hot after Hearts drop points. So it feels like a postponement that kind of suits everyone apart from us. Certainly suits Aberdeen, suits Rangers, suits Hearts, and there probably wasn't any ideal place for that fixture to drop, the rescheduling of it, but that's certainly not an ideal point to just drop it in there in a really hectic month when we've got loads of travelling and loads of difficult games. And they may well be a completely different proposition by that point. We know Aberdeen have been a bit of a shambles this season, but there's plenty of good players in that squad. So I think, especially if they do go down the continental route with the appointment, which it sounds like they will, they may get someone decent in who really gets a response out of those players. And it just reminds me of sort of other title races we've seen over the years. When you get a game postponed and it gets rescheduled for quite far in future, it's never good when you've got that sort of hanging over you, because you never know what the circumstances are going to be for you or for them by the time that game comes around. So we've seen it earlier this season where the game in hand for a while and then it finally came around. Was it Motherwell away on the end of December? Obviously blew it. So yeah, it's unfortunate to say the least.
Barry,
I think it was. So I was going to say, I think it was Dundee United, the one under Nancy. It might have been.
Blew that.
Was it?
Still blew it.
Worse than both. Both Nancy.
Barry, obviously, we got the chance to see Hearts lose, which was an absolute joy. Just think of how it would have felt for the players if they'd won while Hearts lost, as opposed to watching it on TV. Not to say they won't get something from it, but Hearts lost. Rangers, they won. I mean, that's a fucking stitch up. I don't know if you've seen some of the red cards and some of the stuff. So the table currently looks, Celtic are in third. They are 3 points behind Rangers, but they have a game in hand. They are still 6 points behind Hearts, but Hearts have obviously dropped points. In terms of the title race, in terms of how you're feeling about it, we're not back in action until Livingston at home on Wednesday, so that's a pretty good fixture to go into. Marvin Bartley's the new manager there. Well, he's now taken over. How are you feeling about the title race at this point?
I think that was a boost, certainly, and like you say there, it does feel like a missed opportunity that we weren't able to sort of doubly take advantage of it. But yeah, I think that it was a surprise, because I think traditionally in any other season you would think that going to St Mirren Park for anyone would be a difficult one, but I feel that their form has dropped off a cliff since they won the Cup. So a pleasant surprise, and St Mirren battered them. I don't know if you watched the game, but I just felt it was going to be one of those nights, but delighted they got the win. And it has made me feel more positive. I think the fact that we said earlier we've got bodies in now, it's a bit of an unknown quantity, but while it's still unknown, it feels like it could still go good. You know what I mean? It might drastically change if you see them playing. It's like, oh God, they're not as good as we thought. But with the window closing, knowing that our squad's how it's going to be, maybe with the exception of Oxlade-Chamberlain, and getting that sort of the opportunity to to close the gap a wee bit was most welcome. So, yeah, I feel more positive this week, certainly with how things might go on the pitch. But with the knowledge, knowing that what's going to happen at the weekend, as I'm sure we'll come on to later on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, yourself, it just feels like you just want to get these players on the pitch and starting to get them involved in the games.
Yeah, because psychology is obviously a big part of any season, any title race, and I think one of the frustrating things this season is the fact that we've never really been breathing down Hearts' neck, which was what was so frustrating about the postponement the other night. Like, I think at the end of O'Neill's first interim spell, where we 3 points behind but with a game in hand or something like that.
Yeah.
So we've never really had that moment where you properly ask a question of them and see if they start to rattle a bit. But it is going to be interesting to see how it goes over the next few weeks. I don't know if you guys have a particular opinion in terms of, would you like it to continue to be a three horse race between now and the end of the season, because then you've maybe got more chance of each team taking points off the others, or would you like one of the teams to just blow up and then it's just us against? I mean, I don't see Rangers blowing up anytime soon, so it would maybe be a case of going, well, what if Hearts now drop points against Hibs and against Rangers and then start to look like a little bit of a spent force? Would that be good for us, and then we just focus on Rangers? I don't know.
What's your thoughts on that, Barry?
I think the way that you worded that, yeah, initially when you were saying that, there's no doubt in my mind who I would, which team I'd like to blow up.
well, yeah.
But I know what you mean. Like, if it was just a dogfight with us and Rangers, that would probably worry me more. Whereas you almost want Hearts still in there to, if you're going really like sort of nuclear, using the blow up again, if you're going really nuclear, you want Hearts in there probably so that if we aren't going to win it, it's denying Rangers from winning it, if you know what I mean. But
yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
Ibrox, sorry, if Rangers still had to go to Tynecastle towards the end of the season, and you'd be like, oh, that'd be a good chance for them to drop points or whatever.
Yeah, and I kind of think that they will. I know that Hearts have got kind of disciplinary issues just now. It seems like most games that they play now, they'll get a man sent off. But I would like them to keep winning, not only to take points off Rangers, but also the teams around us as well. But the caveat that they fall off as they get closer if it's just us two. So, yeah, for my preference would be to keep it as a 3, but only if that was discounting Rangers.
Yeah, I don't really. We just want to win the league, mate. Don't really give a fuck. Just win it. Just win all the games. Just win all your games. Just win all your games.
I do find it interesting. Like, I don't spend all my time on follow or whatever. But you assume when you see how fawning the media have been about Rangers and about Danny Rall recently, you assume all their fans are totally in love with him and how it's going as well. I've actually read a couple of things more recently where they're all complaining about how little chances are creating from open play, because they are basically just a set piece team, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you do wonder how sustainable that'll be. Obviously there's exceptions like the other night, but it sounds like they've had some interesting decisions going their way, and also Kelly are deplorably bad. So I've said all season I don't think they're as good as people think they are. So as much as I said about, yeah.
So I think I saw something this morning that Rowe was complaining. I think they get booed off at half time or something like that.
Aye.
As well. So that's definitely want Hearts to keep up there so that it's not just like a shootout between us and Rangers.
I mean, the thing is, the Hibs game, Hibs should have beaten Rangers. There's no question about it. They created far better chances. But having said that, Celtic against Falkirk, 2 magnificent bits of quality, but we were huffing and puffing a bit. We find that we are finding it hard to create chances. Our chance creation is kind of down. Our build-up play isn't where we need it to be. Hopefully, an injection of quality that we'll bring in. That was my one kind of want. I wanted us to bring in someone in the January window in central midfield, and so that's why I'll go back to Oxlade-Chamberlain. If we can get him in there, I just think he even if he's not firing at 100%, I just think he's a different dynamic. And a different dynamic in this team is just absolutely required at this point, because if we keep doing what we're doing all the time, we're going to struggle. We might luck our way to this league. We might win every game 1-0 with a great piece of quality. And, my nerves couldn't take it, but I'd be happy at the end of it. So, yeah, we need to work on our chance creation, with our build-up play. And I think now that the window's closed and all the uncertainty's done, I think Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney can probably properly get to work. I hope. Yeah. That's the hope, Scott, right? That they actually now curate a plan with the players that they've got in of how we're going to create chances and score goals.
Yeah, definitely. They've been here for a long time now, so I suppose we have had quite such a busy schedule that there won't have been a lot of opportunities to do that. It was another expected goals defeat on Sunday, wasn't it, against Falkirk, wasn't it? Which I think Christian Wolf, they definitely, they hurt his heart, the expected goals defeats.
Good. But, good.
And we've had we've had a lot of them under O'Neill. But at the same time,
you win the game of football. Come on, put the ball in the net.
I know. It's
the boy scored the header. Another boy hit the ball in the net. Come on, that's football.
And this season of all seasons, I don't think we as a fan base can be going, but he only won the game. It's like he's fucking winning games. Nancy lost 6 out of 8. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't think we should damn O'Neill with faint praise for doing that. And I don't think it's just fair to say it's luck either, or just vibes. But yeah, there does need to be more of a framework and a structure there, and hopefully the new signings do help with that.
Listen, I'm a progressive guy. I love all the stats and all that. But see, at the end of the day, see if you rattle one into the top corner. Do you know what I mean? Just do that every game. Be fine. I'm half joking. I kind of do actually agree with that. But looking at so there's been obviously from a Celtic supporters situation, we've not had the Green Brigade at Celtic Park. We have had the Celtic collective kind of come together and unite this season to create resistance to what has been horrible handling of a number of issues at Celtic Park. The Celtic Collective have released a statement, and I'll just read it out for you now. So, Celtic versus Dundee, the 7th of February 2026. Boycott. Following the latest disappointing transfer window, the Celtic Fans Collective met to discuss the ongoing campaign for positive change at the football club. An overwhelming majority of supporters club representatives, fan group representatives and independent supporters voted in favour of a boycott of Saturday evening's game against Dundee in the Scottish Cup. With supporters unjustly banned, fan media locked out and an executive team widely regarded as unfit for purpose, the clear feeling within the collective was time for action, and it's now. While we recognise the difficult and emotional toll this decision will have on many supporters, we invite and encourage fans to stand with us in sending a clear and unequivocal message to Celtic. You must take decisive action, initiate meaningful change and restore positive communication. The Celtic Fans Collective have agreed on 3 key areas the club must address to prevent the boycott and further protest action. Number 1, the removal of Michael Nicholson as CEO. Number 2, the reinstatement of the Green Brigade. Number 3, the lifting of access restrictions on all fan media organisations, allowing them to cover both the men and women's teams once again. Following Brian Wilson's call for unity 4 weeks ago, the Celtic Fans Collective offered to meet with the chairman to discuss how the unity could be achieved at the club. Unfortunately, that offer was ignored. So, boycott on Saturday, the Dundee game. Barry, your thoughts on it? It's never easy. It's never an easy thing to do to not go and watch Celtic, but it's times needs must.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's been building towards this, because everyone I speak to and think that that's the next logical step, and the window wasn't what we had hoped it was. I think it was right to wait until the window was closed, because you see a lot of criticism of the collective, and it's sort of damned if they do, damned if they don't, it feels like. No matter what they do, someone will have an opinion, I would have done this, I wouldn't have done that. But if they'd called for a boycott, say a week ago, people would say, why are you doing that? We might pull a £10 million signing out the hat. So more than fair to wait till the window closes. People say, you got 5 players in, but again, we didn't spend a single penny. And Yeah, I just think it's the right thing to do. Obviously, it's disappointing for people to have lost out on money, and people obviously coming over from Ireland and further afield to have the travel with the intention of seeing Celtic. But I think you have to, something had to be done. And the Cynic, we're part of the collective, and I think collective action is exactly that. You go with the people in the room who voted for it, and the collective voted for it, and as part of the collective, we support it. I would have supported it anyway. So, yeah, I hope that it is well established. And one thing I think that the collective have been keen to point out is that they're not dictating to everyone. There's people have got different circumstances, so they're not saying, "Oh, you have to miss it." And I think some of the kickback has been weird. It's been really sort of aggressive from the people that are saying, "Oh, they won't tell me what to do," and so on and so on. But I hope that it is there is large numbers who boycott the game, because we can't go on this way without serious change. And I think people have asked what are the reasons for doing it, and I've outlined it particularly. And I think the main one for me is that Nicholson has to go, because his ineptitude is apparent for all to see. So if he goes, it'll be a happy day in the history of our club. But that's one of the many issues that we have.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Scott, yourself, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think, as Barry says, it's just the next logical step, isn't it? It's something that's been mooted earlier in the season when all the other actions were happening, and clearly the issues that have been raised by the collective haven't been addressed. And not only that, but in the meantime, the club seem to have been doing everything they can to just aggravate and alienate the collective, and in particular the Green Brigade. So I think it had to happen sooner or later. And this is as good a game as any to do it. And really, if he'd done it in the Stuttgart game, there would have been a big backlash. If he'd done it in a Rangers game or a Hearts game, or a game with big implications for the title race, there would have been more of a backlash. This game, I don't see why anyone could have any great issue with it. Obviously, some people aren't happy, but the fact that the money for tickets came out on Monday, didn't it? And then it got announced on the Tuesday or Wednesday. But there's never going to be an ideal way and time to announce these things. So I don't have an issue with it really, and I hope that it has the desired impact, and at least some of these things on the list can get looked at in a proper way soon. Like, there's not a single outrageous demand on there that I don't see that a reasonable Celtic fan would disagree with. Like, two of the main things are things that we already had in place as recently as a couple of months ago in terms of the fan media access and the Green Brigade in the stadium. These are two things which I think anyone can see, the absence of which are just damaging the club day after day, week after week. So it's self-defeating not to address that, just out of stubbornness and pride. But you do always expect the worst where this board is concerned. But it will certainly be interesting to see what effect it has.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the statements that they released, the statements they released this season have been outrageous. The one about, I was thinking the other day about when they said about the issues with the transfer or transfer strategy this season all fall down to one man's ego and arrogance. Yeah. We've been doing this for 20, 30 years and we know what we're doing. Shut up, you idiots, essentially, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, so boycott. I think the key point I would say is if you don't agree with the Celtic fan collective, if you don't agree with what they're doing, but you still want to get your voice heard, if you want to get involved, if you're critical of them but you don't know how to give them that critique, CelticFansCollective.com is the website. Go to the website, check it out, read through all of the kind of ideas and thoughts behind it, send them an email, tell them why you think this should happen and this shouldn't, tell them why you agree with this but you don't agree with that. It's a democratic organisation that's going to grow, and I think it's evolving. It's not at where it wants to be at the moment, but it will be hopefully down the line. This will be a good resource and a good stand for every supporter. So CelticFansCollective.com, check it out, get your voice heard. Barry?
I was just going to say, totally agree with what you're saying there, but obviously since we started recording, there's been a Celtic TV video that's gone out from Brian Wilson, and obviously we haven't been able to watch it because we're on here. But I think the fact that they have done this shows that the boycott, before it's even happened, is having an impact. Because just kind of reading between the lines that he's mentioning about things will come shortly, about communication and all that. So I think it kind of shows that the board are worried about the boycott. And I would say this is maybe a shot across the bow for those who say they don't speak for me brigade, because it's shown that even the threat of a boycott is having an impact. So I just wanted to say that.
Perfect. Really well put. Really well brought up, Barry. Yeah, he kind of Brian Wilson, there's a quote here. He explains that the club has reached out to a number of supporters group with the aim of moving forward together, particularly over the next few. It's just very generic. It really is quite we've reached out to supporters group. That doesn't really mean anything. But yeah, CelticFansCollective.com, check it out, get involved, raise your positive ideas behind it, raise your negative ones. They'll listen and they'll take it on board. We're going to finish up. I was going to read out the Martin O'Neill stuff, but it just makes me sad when he talks about the board, so we'll just leave it there. But Celtic Dundee, the game itself, obviously we've got 3 players in the door. Shivan Chara's obviously he's scored, but he's only played 2 games. The approach, Barry, would you be keen to get everyone involved? Would you be keen to drip feed them in as the game goes on? What are you thinking?
I think we will see some of them potentially start, because while it is sort of all hands to the pump at this stage of the season, there are going to be games coming thick and fast. As you mentioned, that run coming up a month's time is terrifying right now. So I always think back to when Postecoglou came in and he would throw players in straight away because he said it was a necessity to sort of fast track their progress. And I think we're in that situation right now with the squad. So if you could have 2-3 of the new signings straight in, I probably would do that. And I think the fact that we're at home probably gives me more confidence to do that. And then certainly, as you guys said earlier, the fact that we now have options off the bench. So hopefully all or most of the new signings make an appearance on Saturday, and I'd be keen to see how we would line up with them. So I think maybe you would see maybe Adamu come in. I know that Shivan Chara has played well, but as I said earlier, I would try and find a way to get both of them in, because I think you need these guys to be getting that match sharpness. So yeah, and hopefully we can get a good couple of goals up, and then we can ring the changes in the second half so that all of them have got minutes and get a feel for hopefully a almost empty Celtic Park, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yourself, Scott, just your thoughts on the Dundee game?
Yeah, it will be interesting, because in a way I don't see any big reason to drop Yang, but Nvuka is probably the most underwhelming of all the new signings, but they might feel obliged to throw him in just because O'Neill and Maloney have talked repeatedly, we need a right winger, and this is the right winger they've brought in, so I wonder if they will be tempted to introduce him. Will someone like Dyson still get a game on the left? I'd probably rather drop him at this point. Does that mean you play Taneki, who's obviously been a bit patchy recently? So there's a lot of decisions to be made and a lot of big games on the horizon. So I would like to see us rest people and experiment to an extent. But it's a Dundee team who do appear to have improved quite a lot as the season's gone on. So they might think that if they can come and keep it reasonably tight, then they'll maybe gamble on us not having those 1 or 2 big moments of quality, which we had in the Falkirk game, for example. But I mean, it's not the sort of game you would worry about in any other season. So hopefully it's not one to worry about on Saturday either.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. We are back tomorrow, if you're part of the Cynic.co, with the weekend update. Then we'll have the reaction to the Dundee game on Saturday, and then that feature podcast series, Rebuilding Celtic, drops the first episode on Sunday. That will be our 7th podcast of the week. Normally, there would have been 8 if the Aberdeen game had went ahead, but there'll only be 7 this week. But Near daily podcast for you at thecynic.co. Check out the Cynic on Patreon if you've got any questions or answers, or if you've got questions that you want answered. I guess that's why you ask questions. Email editor at thecynic.co and we'll certainly get back to you. But this has been an absolute joy as always. Barry Gallagher, a pleasure, sir.
Thanks very much. Really enjoyed it tonight. Thank you.
Great stuff. Scott Fleming, speak to you soon, sir.
Thanks for having me. Cannot wait to read this Brian Wilson statement.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. From Scott Fleming, from Barry Gallagher, I'm Chris Gallagher. This has been the Cynic Weekly, and we'll speak to you down the road.